President Bola Tinubu on Sunday received the German Chancellor at the Presidential Villa in Abuja. That was yesterday. Chancellor Olaf Scholz, who is on a two-day visit to Nigeria, is said to have been accompanied by a delegation of high-ranking German business people, including chief executive officers of some of the highest valued companies in the country, as well as by a cultural delegation. The two leaders are expected to explore ways of fortifying the bilateral relations between the two countries. This is the third major visit of Chancellor Scholz to Africa and his first visit to Nigeria since the inauguration of President Tinubu's administration on May 29, 2023. We still have Mr. Akin Fatinke in the studio, and then virtually we have John Akerele, both public affairs commentators. So I'll start with Mr. Fatinke. And let's have your opening thoughts on this visitation, and also what do you think lured or interested him to come down here? I believe he mentioned that he's working with ECOWAS to provide cheap electricity for member states. But then I also want to have your thoughts on his visit yesterday.
Thank you. Listen, I am excited. But you know, at my age, I also have some cautious optimism in saying to you that it's not the first time. I hope we have our acts properly caught, and that the gains that this New Hope agenda will be bringing to bear, talking about energy transition, talking about security, in the Sahel, we talk about electricity. Siemens was here, and they know, Olaf knows very well, he's thinking things that happened in between. I hope flying some 4,564 kilometers by air to Nigeria will yield fruits. Well, I like to always start from the base that I know. Sometime in December 2022, the foreign minister of Germany, they returned some Benin bronze. In fact, the cultural resurgimento that we expect when Annalena Bab brought those in, where are the bronze? Are they being housed properly somewhere?
I think they were returned to the Palace of the Oba of Benin.
Can I see them? Yes, I. And please, Moses, let me be frank. Palace of the Oba of Benin. I knew that some of those artifacts were to return to Nigeria, and the federal government and the Department of Museum, they were all hustling. And I remember the revered Palace of the Oba was saying, look, bring some of these things back to us. We'll be able to keep them. Have we been able to resolve those? From time immemorial, when things like that come, middlemen get into it, and those are things that are supposed to be attracting tourists to our country. So, Olaf, I am not being unpatriotic for you to ask, are we doing it well? Yes, we are doing it well. We are housing them well. We've harnessed them. We've gotten them insured, you know, in case of fire. That no snake is swallowing them and no monkeys are pulling them in the belly. In other words, I'm saying we've gotten our acts together in a way that should do. I also expect, I think the visit still extends to today. What has happened to Goti Institute? What has happened? What has happened to Susan Wenger of blessed memory and Willie Beer back in the 60s? Some of the cultural UNESCO sites that we are supposed to have. You cannot be asking me to bring in my investments and you've not been able to clean your stable well. That is the only essence that I would say, but all put together, I think it's good. I know high-level delegations of CEOs will be meeting today. Congratulations to Ambassador Tuga, the foreign minister. Congratulations to Mr. President Bola Tinubu. The optics seems to be high, but the buck is going to stop on your table, Mr. President, if in 6 months' time, all I hear, or I begin to hear, is that middlemen or civil servants begin to frustrate. I can tell you, during the immediate past, Buhari's government, after bilateral agreements like this have been reached, people were not able to bring in their funds because some civil servants now said, well, certain things will have to come to them. Again, whatever, I will historically tell you that, the tin can pot and all that, yeah, it was structured in a way that would have been better, but the Nigerian middlemen got in between, started trying to inflate the contract. If you go to Frankfurt today, they will open the file, they will see names of Nigerian officials who decided that this should be inflated by so much and stuff like that. And what they got. And the Germans are saying, well, if you are now having low level thing, that is what we've been able to find. Good news, it will become good news if we can pull it down, measure it, do Volkswagen kind of investment, local content. Germany will have to come to Nigeria after we have taken care of our own corruption and corruptive tendencies, after we've taken care of our own security issues, after we've taken care of incessant strikes here and there, after we've taken care of our drug-related issues and Yahoo boys, after we've taken care of people that will just accost you and say that they are the MC Oluomos of this world and they are the Egbesu boys higher and there. After we've been able to do and put all that and instill good governance will attract stuff like this. They are now at the door. We must make sure we get into our bedroom for them, into our toilets, clean it out well. This is good to come if you have the right mind, the right set to take delivery and make sure we are not cheated out in any way. Produce here, manufacture here, do what as much as possible, do local content and technology transfer.
All right then.
Should be Mr. Kerele should be able to
All right
speak
then.
more
So let's
from the Japanese kind of the Japanese did exactly that. They went, they stole, they and they brought prosperity to Japan. Thank you.
All right. So joining us virtually, we have John Akerele. Good morning to you, John. Welcome to the show. Now, our guest in the studio did say the optics looks good. I'm going to borrow that word from him. Optics does look good, but we do recall that the president was at the G20 not too long ago, and he actually met with the German Chancellor, and then the German Chancellor promised to come to Nigeria to see him. He still feels like optical issues here. But what are those things that you think this meeting will help Nigeria benefit from?
I think one of the things to benefit from this meeting, there are so many things we can benefit from it. But before I go into that, let me say good morning to you, and good morning to the other lady in the studio, good morning to the other guests, and good morning to all of our viewers all over the world. Now to your question. When you talk about international relations and bilateral relations between Nigeria and other countries of the world, this is not the first time it's happening. This is not the first time the Chancellor is coming to Nigeria. But what we always say in this is, what is in it for the people? When they come to meet you or you go to meet with them, what are the things you are putting on the table that form your discussion? And this discussion should be about common grounds that can be of economic importance to both countries. So, what do German have in excess that we don't have? Okay, in terms of skill, what do we have in essence that Germans don't have? And can there be exchange of knowledge? Yes and yes. Can we have institutions of German foundation come to Nigeria to set up probably a training center? Or are we looking at, working with their automobile industry and having an assembly plant here in Nigeria to supply the African market? Are we also looking at our youthful population in terms of training, retraining, and deployment of Nigerian workforce across Africa? So I think most of the time when we have this kind of meetings, people like us always have our high hopes that the president and its cabinet will have to come to the discussion table with good and enough tangibles that we can say as a people and as a country, we love these bilateral relations. These bilateral relations are for economic growth and they are for human and capital development and empowerment. And then can we say that these are some of the take-homes and the take-home from this? So for me, it's a good that the Chancellor is coming to Nigeria, but not only coming beyond the optics. These are the issues I think the president and the presidency should put at the forefront of this visitation so that we can now have conversations around what Germany and Nigeria can do together in terms of the relationships, in terms of economic development, also in terms of migration. Most of the time you have Germans in Nigeria, and you have Nigerians who want to migrate to Germany. So what are the relationship? What are the memorandum of understanding that exists between Nigeria and Germany in terms of immigration policies? So these are some of the things I think they should come to the forefront, and then Nigerians can smile always.
All right then. Now we do. Let me come back to you now. Okay. Now we do. This is not the first time, of course. There was a time, I think, during the Buhari administration, Nigeria had a deal with some cements. Where did that go? How did we handle that?
We didn't handle it well. I am not aware. Maybe that's better to put it that way. But if I know of past experience, I know frustrations came in between. Some of the deals are still reverberating. I know some of them are still in courts, the crawling system. The counterparts outside Nigeria have been brought to book. Nigeria is still crawling and trying to see how to go in there. So judicial reforms will be one of the things that I expect that is going to be put on the table. I begin to see Prince Lateef Fagbemi, haven't been there now for about 100 or about 150 days, who now who have looked at the files and look at those prosecutions and begin to now work out deals. Don't forget, the world is a sea page. We have just come out of the PIDD things. The Germans are, they know us for what we are. I just mentioned some of the bad things that happened in 1960, and they kept on saying the Nigerian middlemen have not learned much of a lesson. I think President Tinubu must have gone out there to G20, and some of the things he said is that, look, this will be a new Nigeria. I am prepared for reforms. I am prepared to make sure that we have an enabling environment. I'm prepared to ensure that your funds will not be trapped. I can tell you we have the market to be able to take care of your needs. That is just, that's page one. Page two should now be the fact that the bilateral relations that has happened on the economic field between Nigeria and Germany has been highly skewed, not in favor of Nigeria. So is Germany now ready to do a bit of trade more, to compete with China, to compete with Japan, I dare say, and to compete with the UK and the US, made in Nigerian products? I talked about the cultural imperative. Are they much more ready to bring in more of their institutes? Moses, you remember in the 70s, it used to be fine and dory. The German Cultural Center was somewhere around the Surulere, where you call, and they came,
It's
you go
interesting
there.
that you mentioned that.
Oh, yes.
Because the Chancellor did come with, he did come with a cultural delegation as well.
Nigeria is an oyster waiting to be.
You think they want to reignite all of that?
We have all that. Nigeria is one of the few places where you have the warm spring and the cold spring at the Gold Coast. It's just out there, but what has just pulled us back, unfortunately, I must say, since Gowon's era, since the 70s, all the other military governments, including the civilians, just decided to put Germans aside. But I also know that having been to Germany myself, I know that there is an element of, this anti-Negro, anti-black thing. I was in Germany when they kept on saying the blacks, not necessarily Nigeria, but including Nigeria. The way we gaggle and do so many things that we should be swept off their cities and stuff like that. But I'm happy that we have the German embassy in Abuja. We have the Nigerian embassy in Berlin. We have the consul general in Frankfurt, and we have it in Lagos. I think it is a time of risorgimento. Are we ready? Are we ready politically? Are we ready with a mindset to now welcome these people? Are we ready to now break the boundaries? The German language, when the German come here and say, Danke schön, thank you very much, and Lebich, and all that kind of stuff. It's been with Nigerians. Nigerians have been known to speak the best without intonation on the surface of the earth, and they are all there. And Germany knows that. The only thing Germany is currently, having a challenge with is Nigeria ready? Are we going to get our governance? We've already made the point clear that one of the things that we want to see in the sub-region, given the posture of Nigeria to the coup, in Niger, is that we want to deepen the kind of security relationships.
Okay.
And with the European Union, can we now begin to think, talking to the US, the African High Command, that went away from Nigeria because of corruption? We can now try and bring it back. The Bola Tinubu administration must go beyond the rhetorics and be seen. We are not saying much, but must be seen that he's ready for them, and I'm sure.
We'll come back and touch on the coup in Niger Republic, but in the meantime, let's go to John now.
John, I have a question for you. Charles came with cultural delegation. I want to have your thoughts on that.
John, as you make to respond to that, add that to the fact that as it stands currently, Nigeria doesn't seem to have, a cultural policy. And just recently, we were also tinkering with the idea of selling the National Theatre. All right, we're playing with that idea right now, just like the refineries. The National Theatre is non-functional. Now,
thank you, Mrs. and thank you to the other lady in the studio. Now, this is it. And when we talk about the political will and that the government should understand that governance is about leadership, and leadership cuts across all strata of life. If you're looking at Nigeria, looking at our population, looking at our diversity, looking at our ethnicity, and looking at our religiosity, you see that all of these things are a blessing for us. But because of our political class, they always use that against us. Now, Moses, there's no country of the world that you can have over 250 over 250 languages in terms of ethnicities. There's no country of the world with that kind of attribute. And so that gives you that edge as a country that we have so much in terms of culture, in terms of tradition, that we can sell to the global village, that we can explore. Now if you look at some of these countries who earn so much from tourism, ask yourself, Moses, how many languages do they have? How many attraction center, tourist centers do they have? Moses, can I say to you, ordinary Osun State alone in Nigeria, Osun State alone, if the state will say, we want to look at all of our mineral resources, we want to look at all of our attraction centers and want to make them a good place in terms of infrastructure to make sure that it's enabling and then it can attract tourists. I don't know if they understand the wealth that is embedded in that sector alone. And if they understand that fact, they will see that they will spend more money on building infrastructure. So Moses, why do people go to China to go and work on the long wall of China? Do you know the amount of money China generates from only that source alone? Why do millions of people go to Japan and say they want to visit Mount Fuji? Just recently, the Japan government is complaining about over-flooded tourists. Why? Because they have too many people. So look at the amount of money they have generated just by visiting Mount Fuji alone. And here in Nigeria, you have Mount Zuma, you have so many mountains in Akure. If you are going to Ondo, you have so many mountains along the line. If you are going to Lokoja, Kogi, you have so many mountains. You have so many waterfalls. The last speaker was talking about Ikongosi. That was in Ekiti. While I was on Dream Undergraduate days, I used to go to Ikongosi to go and see where the warm and hot and cold water, where they met, and then we have fun there. Now, can we revamp all of this? So when people come to that center, the community itself will develop. Why? Because we have more of hotels will be built around. So when tourists come, they can spend 1 or 2 days in that community. Hotel will sell. Food vendors will sell. Now, some of the locals who have their handcraft, because when these people come to these areas, they want to go home with memorabilia. And memorabilia most of the time are the ones that are handcrafted by the locals. That will be more valuable to the visitors or to the tourists. And with that, they can earn more money. So when they understand that culture and tradition and tourism are interwoven, and that it's a blessing to any state of the country that is having so much in abundance. If you are going to the northern part, Moses, you are going to witness the horse race, you're going to witness the Turban Festival. If you are going to the south, you are going to witness the Calabar Carnival. And so these shows you that there's so much wealth embedded in culture and tradition, and that all of the commissioners, at the state level and the minister at the federal level will understand the importance of these things, and that this is even more way higher, that it can generate more funds for us than the oil we are killing ourselves on today. Now, going to the aspect of it saying they want to sell the National Theatre, Moses, that will tell you that when you have leadership who have lost focus, who don't know what to do, who have no ideas in terms of tinkering, to look at what can we do to generate funds apart from tightening the neck of the people, apart from increasing taxation. There are so many things that the government can do to generate money. So it shows to you that as a government that lacks focus, that lacks direction, that is confused and don't know what to do. Because how on earth will you say that you want to sell something that is a national monument, something that some of you who are leaders today, when you were still in your at your teenage or young, very, very young age, you go to these places. These are places you go to, you have your pictures there. And so you want to sell that for generations yet unborn. So when this generation come, where do they go to say this is a national theater? From the word national theater, it's a national heritage and should never be considered as a property to be sold for no reason. Rather, our political class should cut down on their bogus and frivolous spendings so that they can have more money to administer administration and to serve the people better. So, but for me, each state, and that's why each state government must be intentional as to look inward. What do we have in abundance? Do we have mountains in abundance? If we have mountains in abundance, how can we attract visitors to come to these mountains? Right. If we have waterfall in abundance, how can we attract more visitors to come? If we have food, how can we attract more visitors to come? That should be the question they should be having.
All right, then. Thank you very, very much, John. I was going to say another question would be: do the states have the autonomy to, actually take it upon themselves and develop these tourist sites around them? Anyway, you probably would respond to that later. But let's come to the gentleman in the studio now.
To Akin, the German Chancellor gave ECOWAS 81 million euro for security and for other things. Now, the president also mentioned during the visit that he's going to change the narrative of Nigeria, seeing Nigeria as a slow and a crawling nation. How do you react to this, the coup in Niger, and then also the money given to the president, the security, everything happening? What do you make of all of this?
I'm hearing from you, just like I heard it from him earlier. What I have not seen or have not been privileged to see is to see how the civil servants have deployed these funds, how they have used it by way of training and retraining. What exactly are the equipments we have used that for? Have we used it to satisfy our gluttony for a bloated bureaucracy? What is the Attorney General, Accountant General, and the Auditor General of the Federation? What is their report in that area? Certainly, something will have come. And if the funds have not been utilized, why not? These are questions upon questions upon questions that need to be tackled. But if my experience, based on what has happened in the past, I'm not necessarily saying that it will happen now. Perhaps it's been one fat cat of a Dasuki who has decided to now share that among political class and interests spanning everywhere, including the media, including the accountancy profession, including the courts. And then the thing is might have gone down the drain. Transparency, accountability, it's basically the watchword. What is my view concerning the coup in Niger? My first thought would be, I am for democracy. But being that I am talking about coup in Niger, or is talking about democracy, how democratic is my institutions? How genuinely democratic am I? Am I actually practicing democracy in the right sense of practicing democracy? I cannot, I'm sorry, give what I do not have. Okay, I can pontificate. So that pontification will now then be, yes, Mr. President took an initial decision to want to use military. He's seen reason. I like him for that. I think it will not pay us. I know the European Union would have been like, get there just like yesterday. We have a way to now then say, no, that's not going to happen. We are a concerted force of middle power. We used to call it non-aligned.
Don't you think that Germany? Sorry to interrupt you. Don't you think that Germany, with this 81 million euro being given out, don't you think they're trying to make a statement given to ECOWAS now? Don't you think that's some sort of a statement being made?
The more reason why we say we do not want aid, we want trade. And if you have your head properly screwed up there, you know that you have to dot the I's, cross the T's, not get contracts signed in foreign language, and your National Assembly will not even be able to interpret it, and everybody just wants to go in there. Yeah, it could be a Greek gift. Great gifts has been given to us in times past. In this same country where we had well-honed foreign ministers in the likes of Professor Akinyemi, Bolaji Akinyemi. Thank you. We don't want. Kenya, or is it Tanzania, has clearly said that, look, if your aid will be such that you are going to now be prescribing to me that I should go out there and attack a fellow country, or I should support LGBT, and all that. Look, you failed from the onset. The dignity of the African nation is, in my mind, to go the Sambisa boy away. Keep whatever it is that you want to give me by way of aid. Come into my country. Let's work collaboratively and give me trade. Let's do a balance of trade alignment. We have Gary. Have you eaten Gary before? Like I told you, I was in Germany, and a German came and took, for the first time, took Gary. I brought Gary from let me see, I'm serious about this. I took Gary, and I was able to clear guinea fowl, which I frowned. He took Gary and guinea fowl. He said, "This is the best food that I can think." I don't know. You won't get it unless if you bring your machines and equipment, come back to Nigeria. I'm talking of about close to about 15 years ago. If you come to Nigeria, yes, we are ready. But is Nigeria ready, like I said? So, for me, I have my pride, I have my knowledge, I have my heart that is for legacy. Anything that you bring, and then you begin to now give some conditionalities, I'll shove it in your face. Please take your money and get out and go elsewhere. Nigeria is now a destination where the Chinese, the US, the Germans, UK are wanting to come back to. The only thing is that we don't have a parlor that is swept properly clean to receive, to incubate, and then make it good for both countries. So far, I think the diplomacy as regards the coup in Niger is such that, yes, we did a bit of sabre rattle. We are still keeping our gunpowder. I don't think we are going to attack. And despite that, Germany is coming, US is coming, with some kind of measure of respect. What they don't respect is our penchant to talk, and not act, and then at the end of the day, not be transparent and accountable.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Akin Fatunke. All right, so let me come to John now. John, we know that one of the things Germany has assisted us in the past is training our police, training the military. Right now, the president was talking about Germany's assistance in education as well. And what do you make of that? Germany assisting Nigeria. In what areas, really, can Germany assist Nigeria in our own educational system? Yes.
Moses, it's so appalling when I hear such a statement.
Sorry, John. Now, this just skipped my memory a bit. We also do know that the Chancellor said something about gas, eyeing Nigeria's gas. What's in this for us? Knowing fully well that we've had an issue of flaring gas in recent time.
Thank you, Moses, for that question. Let me start with the last question about gas. Nigeria has been known for wastages. Nigeria has been known for frivolous spendings. Nigeria has been known for not being transparent and not being accountable when it comes to public funds. So if they are coming, to help us harness the wastages in gas sector, I think that for us is good. Don't forget that, Moses, we have so much in abundance when it comes to gas. And that's why I said to you that a right-thinking government will always look at whatever they have in excess and how they can convert that into economic gains. So I would have expected that one of the focal points of this administration will be to make sure that we develop our gas sector, to make sure that we have so many things converted into gas-enabled or gas-powered elements or devices. And by so doing, the country will be drifting away intentionally from petrol-based or diesel-based elements or equipment. By so doing, you also see that you are creating a new value chain in terms of job creation. You are creating a new value chain in terms of education, in terms of technicality, in terms of training and development. And by so doing, you are opening up more space for commerce and economic gains. And before you know it, the government will also gain in terms of having increased tax returns from these people, from the companies who are employing, from the people who are workers, and from the areas where these companies are situated. That being said, Moses, so for me, it's a good one that the German are coming to help us look at our gas sector and see how they can, bring in quality development. But if I would say to the German Chancellor that I think they should not give any money in terms of fiscal cash to the Nigerian government, rather you should tell us where you want this gas plant to be situated. Our own government will bring in all that we need to build the gas. Because when you give money to Nigerian government, you only get it to hear on the headlines of newspaper, and people like us discuss it. And after discussing it, Moses, after like 3, 4, 6 months down the line, ask yourself, what about this? Then yes, different kind of stories. If it's not monkey today that swallowed the money, it is snake. If it is not snake, it is termite. If it's not termite, if it is mosquito. You just say all sort of funny stories. So for me, I don't really trust the Nigerian government to handle physical cash on behalf of the Nigerian people. Rather, this contract that should be signed should be that they will come in here, use our local and manual labor, build these infrastructures, and then deliver it to Nigerian governments. If that is done, you see that the era of cutting down costs and wastages and not being transparent and this attitude of not being accountable will come to a halt. As to the other issue, Moses, I think it is paramount and it is important that when in this country we used to have administrations where the center and the state do not align. But you can say today that from 2011, 2015, the center and most states align. Now, how have the states been able to harness that relationship that, okay, I am the governor of Lagos State, I'm in APC. The president of the country is an APC member. How have I used that relationship, to harness, some of the things that I think can work for us in terms of lobbying? Now, why should you lobby for such a thing, Moses, is the fact that you understand the economic gain is going to bring to your own people in your locality. You understand the fact that it's going to make your IGR to increase. You understand the fact that it's going to make your populace to have a stable, balanced lifestyle and economic activities will thrive in that region. And so as a governor and as a government who understand that fact, that governance is about the people and it's for the people, you see that there's no administration that will not want to align with you. So look at a state like Lagos State who says, I want to generate our own power. And they bring that proposition to the federal government. You see that there's a higher chance of them getting a yes and approval from the federal government faster because they are in the same party and they can always talk about these issues as to gains to their state. So I think every state governor should also look into that area and say, we want to develop our tourist capacity of our states so that we can generate more funds for ourselves internally, create more jobs for our people, increase the economic activities of our area, and then we can have a balanced society. As to the issue of Nigeria, Moses, I think for us, we must understand that democracy is a government by the people and for the people. Nigeria as a case study, Moses, can we truly say to ourselves, look at ourselves in the eyes and say that indeed and indeed we are practicing democracy? When you look at not even our general elections now, let's look at internal party politics, Moses. How the primaries, how is it being conducted? We are in a country where they say that they just give you a list of the people and say these are the people that's going to represent you. Either you like it or not, you can go to court. And when you go to court, whatever the court gives to you is what you have found. And so when we are not practicing democracy as it ought to be, the people are the one at the receiving end. And when the people are tired of government shenanigans, they take the government by their hands. And that's what you are seeing in terms of coup that happened in Niger. What has happened in Niger is the result of consecutive bad leadership, Moses, over the decades. And people are saying that we keep hearing this amount of money in billions, in millions of dollars, but the amount of money we are hearing in millions of dollars does not equate the realities on ground. Moses, the same thing to Nigeria. You are hearing of 160 million naira budget. You are hearing of over 2 trillion naira budget. You are hearing of aid coming from US in millions of dollars, aid coming from China, aid coming from Japan, aid coming from Germany. And at the end of the day, Moses, when you look at all of this amount of money that you are talking about, and you look at the realities on ground, they do not match. So you are only hearing the amount of money with your ears, but your eyes cannot see physical development in your area, and that leads to frustration, Moses.
All right, and frustration indeed. Well, at this point, I must say thank you very much to John Akirili, but I'd like for you to stay a little bit longer. Big thanks also to Akin Fatunke, but we are not leaving you just yet. We'd like you to stay a little bit longer, and my colleague has been Masinachi. Well, in the meantime, up next on VOP this morning, President Bola Tinubu's an APC loyalist emerged top INEC official. Now, this is a conversation that we'll have when we come back.